Rachel Zegler was supposed to believe is just so striking that even the supermodel like Gal Gadot is supposed to be jealous of her. I mean, we're supposed to completely suspend our disbelief.
Rachel Zegler went from being Spielberg's hand-picked rising star to someone Hollywood won't even touch.
Oh, really? Are you having trouble paying your bills, Rachel? Did Steven Spielberg not pay you for your role in West Side Story? Did Disney fail to give you a healthy paycheck for, like, cry me a river? She's just exactly everything that we can't stand.
Once hailed as the breakout face of a new generation, her journey looked like the kind of dream most aspiring actors only fantasize about. A viral audition, the lead role in West Side Story, and an open endorsement from the biggest name in the business. She was everywhere. But then, just as quickly as she'd risen, something shifted.
And then they had to hire a special media consultant for her to follow her around all the time and make sure she didn't continue on Snow White and the Prince and Young Love and Women Who Want to Get Married and Steven Spielberg, the executive producer of her previous movie, and white people who she claims wanted to know if she was really a Latina on her first movie. Like, the list was really long.
Behind the polished headlines and red carpet appearances, there were murmurs, claims of creative clashes, diva behavior, and a level of arrogance that seemed to alienate even her closest collaborators. Some dismissed it as typical Hollywood gossip. Others swore there was more to the story. And when the Disney machine handed her the keys to Snow White, it should have sealed her stardom. Instead, it sparked a collapse so complete, even Steven Spielberg reportedly backed away in silence. So what happened? How does someone go from Hollywood's golden girl to a cautionary tale whispered behind closed doors? Today, we're peeling back the glossy PR and digging into the rumors, the red flags, and the career crash that left Rachel Zegler in Hollywood limbo. Because in Tinsel Town, talent isn't always enough, and when the biggest names start distancing themselves from you, sometimes silence says more than 1,000 statements. In 2019, Rachel Zegler was just another high school student uploading cover songs to YouTube. Then, almost overnight, she wasn't. Out of 30,000 hopefuls who auditioned for West Side Story, Rachel, an unknown with no major film experience, was chosen by Steven Spielberg himself to lead his first ever musical. That's not just rare. That's legendary. And Spielberg wasn't quiet about it. He publicly praised her acting instincts, her voice, her screen presence. The press latched on to the narrative of a Cinderella story. Young Latina actress, plucked from obscurity, chosen by a director with nothing to prove and everything to lose on a project like this. Rachel quickly became a symbol of fresh talent, of diversity, of a new era. Early footage had insiders buzzing. Industry magazines described her voice as enchanting, her emotional range startling, and Spielberg seemed genuinely captivated. He positioned her as the emotional center of a film stacked with seasoned performers. Rachel, meanwhile, handled the sudden fame with a mix of gratitude and youthful confidence, often posting wide-eyed reactions to and thanking her fans with warmth. To the public, she was magnetic, fresh, unfiltered, and seemingly humbled by the moment. But behind the scenes, a different version of Rachel was starting to emerge. Small things at first. Whispers from crew members that she asked too many questions, that she pushed back on direction more than expected from a newcomer. Some called it passion, others weren't so sure. But at this point, few dared criticize her. Not when she was being backed by one of the most powerful men in Hollywood. After all, Spielberg had mentored young talent before. Drew Barrymore, Christian Bale, even child actors in E.T. and Empire of the Sun. He had a gift for spotting potential. And Rachel? She seemed poised to be the next in that long line of breakout stars. But this time, something didn't feel quite right. And it wouldn't take long for those subtle tensions to become too loud to ignore. At first, the signs were easy to miss, but looking back, they were all there. During the West Side Story press tour, sharp-eyed fans and journalists noticed something odd. While co-stars like Ariana DeBose and Ansel Elgort received equal praise from Spielberg, Rachel's mentions began to taper off, not disappear, but shift in tone, less effusive, more restrained. Behind the scenes, rumors trickled out, reports of Rachel second-guessing direction, challenging scene setups, and questioning dialogue rewrites began to circulate quietly. None of it made headlines, at least not yet, but insiders started taking note. Some defended her, saying she was just passionate, unafraid to speak up, but others saw a different picture, a first-time actress, still unproven, acting like she was already running the show. Crew members allegedly began avoiding certain conversations when she was on set. Choreographers, cinematographers, even script supervisors reportedly grew frustrated with her insistence on being involved in decisions far outside her scope. One source said it felt like she was trying to direct the film, while being directed by Steven Spielberg himself. Still, Spielberg stayed silent. Publicly, he continued to support the film and its cast, but his interviews became more focused on the ensemble, less on Rachel. And when he did talk about standout performances, it was Ariana DeBose who seemed to get the spotlight. That shift wasn't lost on anyone. Then came a test screening that changed everything. The audience reactions were largely positive, especially toward Rachel's voice. But multiple industry insiders claimed that Spielberg left the screening visibly frustrated. Some said it had less to do with the film's reception and more to do with how Rachel was responding to the editing process. She had opinions, lots of them, on pacing, on camera angles, even on music choices. To some, this was bold. To others, it was arrogance. The final straw, according to one alleged insider, was a private conversation in which Spielberg referred to Rachel as difficult, or, as some retell it, difficult to work with. That phrase, whether it was ever truly said or not, became legend. It spread through casting offices like wildfire, and it sparked one of the most unspoken warnings in the business. If Spielberg regrets working with you, no one else will take the risk. And yet, Rachel remained publicly unfazed. She moved on to her next major project with Disney, another massive opportunity. But as we'll see, that decision might have been the one that sealed her fate. Behind the scenes of West Side Story, things were more tense than the smiling red carpet photos suggested. According to multiple entertainment insiders, what started as creative enthusiasm from Rachel began crossing an invisible line, especially when it came to Spielberg himself. Sources claimed she wasn't shy about critiquing choices, everything from set design to how certain scenes were edited. One report said she openly pushed back on Spielberg's direction for a key emotional moment, insisting on reshooting it with a different angle. Now, questioning a director isn't unusual, even among experienced actors, but doing that to Spielberg as a first-timer? That's unheard of. Allegedly, tensions escalated during post-production. Rachel was invited to attend editing sessions, a rare gesture of trust, and allegedly began giving unsolicited notes. Insiders said she nitpicked camera movements, objected to some of her line readings, and requested musical moments be restructured for more modern impact. Whether she meant well or not, the message received by some behind the scenes was clear. Rachel thought she knew better. One editor reportedly joked that Rachel was trying to co-direct the movie without the job title. Another insider, speaking anonymously, claimed that Spielberg was furious, but too classy to say it out loud. Whether or not he ever confronted her directly remains unknown. But what's confirmed is this. When award season came around, Rachel's name wasn't included in Spielberg's most enthusiastic shoutouts. In interviews, he praised the cast, but rarely mentioned her by name. When asked about the performances, his focus leaned heavily on Ariana DeBose, Mike Faist, and even some of the lesser-known supporting roles. Not a word on Zegler's work as Maria, arguably the lead role in the film. Then came the whispers. Phrases like difficult to work with, ego issues, and overstepping boundaries started floating through casting circles. And in an industry where reputation moves faster than facts, the damage was done. Spielberg never publicly disavowed her, but in Hollywood, silence is rarely neutral. By the time West Side Story hit theaters, the buzz around Rachel had already shifted. Still talented, still promising, but now carrying a quiet warning. And then, before the dust even settled, she took on her biggest role yet, with even higher stakes. Disney's decision to cast Rachel Zegler as Snow White should have been her ultimate career breakthrough. A live-action reboot of one of the most iconic animated films in history. Backed by a $250 million budget and Disney's marketing juggernaut, this was meant to catapult her into the A-list. But the problem started before the cameras even rolled. When Rachel's casting was announced, the backlash was immediate. Not because of her talent, but because of her outspoken personality. She'd already developed a reputation for clapping back at critics online. And for some fans of the classic film, that didn't align with their idea of a Disney princess. Still, most of the controversy remained confined to niche online circles, until the interviews dropped. During a press junket, Rachel made headlines when she called the original Snow White creepy and outdated. She dismissed the prince character as a stalker, and said the remake would focus on a strong, independent actress who doesn't dream about true love. These remarks, while intended to promote female empowerment, landed poorly with audiences who grew up on the original. Suddenly, what should have been harmless press became the first domino in a PR nightmare. The backlash wasn't just online hate, it was widespread frustration. Fans of Disney, both casual and hardcore, accused Rachel of disrespecting the legacy of the film. Hashtags started trending, YouTubers roasted the interviews, reaction videos went viral. Even normally neutral outlets like Variety and The Hollywood Reporter began quietly questioning whether Disney had made the right call. Things got worse when Rachel attempted to defend her comments. In a follow-up video, she casually blamed Minecraft for why young people didn't care about Snow White anymore, saying people would rather play Minecraft than watch a 1930s princess wait for a guy. That one quote exploded on social media. Memes flooded in. TikTok parodies took over, and Rachel, instead of apologizing, went silent. Disney, meanwhile, was caught in a bind. Their lead actress had become the face of the backlash, but reshooting or recasting wasn't an option. They'd already sunk hundreds of millions into production. Internally, executives began distancing themselves. Some insiders say there were urgent meetings about how to minimize her presence in promotional materials, while others claimed reshoots were considered, though never confirmed. By the time the first trailers dropped, the damage was done. The once hyped live-action remake now felt untouchable. Fans weren't just indifferent, they were angry. The film bombed, and Rachel, she became the scapegoat. Suddenly, casting her didn't look like bold representation. It looked like a mistake. And the studios watching this play out quietly took notes. When the Snow White press tour went sideways, the public didn't just react, they clowned. And once the meme started, there was no slowing down. Clips of Rachel Zegler dismissing the original film or awkwardly referencing Minecraft were instantly clipped, shared, remixed, and parodied into oblivion. One popular TikTok creator sarcastically dubbed her Snow Woke, while others created entire skits imagining Disney executives losing their minds behind closed doors. Twitter, or X, depending on what year you're watching this, erupted with hashtags like #NotMySnowWhite and #Zegler backlash. At first, Rachel tried to push back. She tweeted vague subtweets about internet hate, calling the backlash disappointing and discriminatory. But her responses came off as defensive rather than reflective, and instead of softening the blow, they hardened it. Even longtime fans began questioning her public tone. The confident, outspoken energy that once seemed refreshing started to feel combative and dismissive. Instead of addressing concerns head-on, she'd pivot, avoid, or simply go quiet. One moment that particularly backfired was a now-deleted Instagram story where she joked, "Can't wait for all of you to watch this movie you hate." It was meant to be cheeky, but instead it confirmed what many already suspected. Rachel wasn't taking any of it seriously. Meanwhile, her co-stars stayed quiet. Disney, even quieter. Nobody stepped in to support her publicly, which only amplified the silence. And as the internet turned her into a meme, the industry watched carefully. Because while online mockery might seem harmless, in Hollywood, public image is currency, and Rachel's was losing value by the hour. What made it worse was the lack of a course correction. Most actors, when facing backlash of this scale, go into damage control. Apology tours, charitable appearances, carefully worded interviews. Rachel, nothing. No sit-down interview, no heartfelt statement, no signs of humility. And that's what truly shifted perception. She wasn't just a lightning rod. She was now being seen as someone unwilling to acknowledge any missteps. The result? Total silence from the very people who had once championed her. Spielberg, Disney, major producers, none came to her defense. The support system around her dissolved, and what was left was a rising star with no one publicly willing to vouch for her. And then came the moment that truly changed the narrative, from criticism to career crisis. In an industry built on relationships, Spielberg's silence hit like a hammer. Steven Spielberg is notoriously private, especially when it comes to conflict. But when someone he's worked with is facing public backlash, especially someone he discovered, he usually says something. He defended Tom Cruise during his post-War of the Worlds controversy. He praised Shia LaBeouf even after their personal fallout. With Rachel Zegler, nothing, not a single word. In multiple interviews following West Side Story's release, Spielberg was asked about the cast. He lit up when discussing Ariana DeBose's Oscar win. He reminisced about the talent of Mike Faist, and even gave shout-outs to background dancers. But Rachel Zegler, the film's literal lead and his hand-picked discovery, he skipped right over her name every time. This wasn't a mistake. It was a message, a quiet distancing. And in Hollywood, that's louder than a public statement. Casting directors took notice, so did producers. When Spielberg won awards for The Fabelmans and other projects, Rachel's name was never linked to him again. No follow-up collaborations, no mentorship, not even a public "she's talented and has a bright future," the kind of safe line you'd expect if there were no hard feelings. Insiders speculated that the relationship soured long before the press ever noticed. Some claimed Spielberg felt Rachel was ungrateful, that she didn't respect the opportunity she'd been given. Others suggested he regretted championing her so openly, especially after the Snow White interviews made headlines. But the silence wasn't just Spielberg's. The Academy, which once named her a presenter, didn't invite her back. Other directors who had once expressed interest in working with her reportedly cooled off. And agents? Well, let's just say phone calls started going unreturned. It wasn't being fired in the official sense. There was no press release, no scandal to scrub her name from Hollywood. But reputationally, she was untouchable. A star who had everything going for her, and now couldn't even get a callback. And still, through all of this, Rachel said nothing. No apology, no clarification, no redemptive interview, just silence, right when the industry expected self-awareness. But in Hollywood, silence is rarely golden. Sometimes it's career-ending. While the public was busy debating Rachel's attitude, something far more damaging was happening behind the scenes. Opportunities were vanishing. Before Snow White even wrapped, Rachel had been attached to multiple high-profile projects. One was a rumored Netflix miniseries based on a best-selling thriller. Another was a supporting role in a major HBO drama being quietly developed by a Game of Thrones producer. At the time, her reps were negotiating multiple offers, each one a potential career maker. But after the backlash hit, those deals quietly evaporated. One production source leaked that Rachel had been soft-dropped from a project after producers became nervous about her rising negative Q-score. In plain terms, she was now a liability. Studios spend millions on casting, and no one wants a PR mess on their hands, especially before a camera even rolls. So instead of public firings or announcements, they simply stopped calling. Even Snow White's press strategy shifted. Insiders claimed Disney moved forward with post-production voiceovers and marketing materials without involving her as much as originally planned. Some even noted that her screen time in certain promotional clips was reduced, not a cut exactly, but a quiet signal that Disney no longer saw her as the selling point. But what really raised eyebrows was the sudden change in tone from those once backing her. Her management firm, silent, co-stars, absent, studio execs, evasive. Rachel wasn't being canceled in the loud headline-making sense, but she was facing something far more real. Career was going nowhere. The kind that happens off the radar. No statements, no drama, just the quiet turning of heads and the sound of phones that no longer ring. Rachel Zegler's fall from grace hasn't been absolute, but it's been significant. And now she's standing at a crossroads few young actors ever expect to face this early. The choice between reinvention or retreat. Hollywood loves a redemption arc. Stars like Robert Downey Jr., Kristen Stewart, even Shia LaBeouf to an extent, have rebounded from bad press, strange behavior, and even public scandals. But the key difference? At some point, they owned it. They acknowledged the missteps, rebranded their image, and slowly won back the audience. Rachel hasn't done that yet. And that silence? It's beginning to feel less like mystery and more like avoidance. Some believe she's simply too young and inexperienced to navigate the mystery of fame. Others think her pride is getting in the way, but if there's one thing her story proves, it's this. Talent isn't enough. You can sing like a Disney princess, act alongside legends, and be handpicked by Spielberg himself, but none of it matters if the audience turns on you and you don't know how to turn them back. There's still time for Rachel to change the narrative. A candid interview, a grounded role in a small indie film, a moment of humility that shows growth. These aren't miracles, they're strategy. And right now, strategy might be the only thing that saves what was once the most promising career of her generation. Because in the end, fame isn't about how high you rise. It's about how well you handle the fall, and whether you know how to climb again. Rachel Zegler's journey reads like a script. Discovered young, jumped into the spotlight, handed the golden ticket. And for a moment, it looked like she was about to become the face of a new generation. But talent comes with pressure. Fame brings scrutiny. And when confidence blurs into controversy, the fall is faster than anyone expects. This isn't a story about villains. Rachel wasn't evil. Spielberg wasn't cruel. The internet didn't ruin her. What happened here was more subtle and far more common than we like to admit. A young starlet collided with fame's sharpest edges: ego, expectation, and the unforgiving gaze of the public. Now the question isn't whether she's talented. That's never been in doubt. The question is, can she learn fast enough to survive her own success? Because in Hollywood, talent gets you noticed, but humility, that's what makes you last.